What should I do about the latest breach? Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. Seems like not a day goes by we don't hear about some kind of a data breach somewhere at some bank or some large institution or some service company where all of a sudden a bunch of account information is out, quote unquote, in the wild. What I want to do is review one of the breaches that happened a couple years ago and examine the kinds of information that were available in the breach and what made it interesting, what made it scary, what made it frustrating, and as a result, what kinds of things you and I should have done in response to that. Because whatever happens, we're pretty sure you can count on there being another breach that will at some point involve you and me. The breach I'm talking about was, like I said, from a couple of years ago. It's called the collection number 1 breach. It contains something like 750 million email addresses and plain text passwords. It was newsworthy at the time and actually still remains fairly newsworthy just because it's so big and because it has plain text passwords. That's what makes it interesting. It's huge, it has email addresses, and it has passwords. It's an example of what's possible. It is almost literally the worst case scenario for a breach. And I say that because while email addresses get exposed on a fairly regular basis, and they're really not that much to worry about, the fact that plain text passwords were included, that's a big deal. Because then hackers using that database could go in and log into whatever service, or maybe start trying various services with that email address and that password. Now, what we don't know about this breach, of course, is where it came from. It just sort of showed up on the dark web one day as somebody saying, here, look at all this information I was able to collect. Aren't I cool? The bottom line is there's a bunch of information, a bunch of accounts and usernames and passwords. We just don't know where they applied. That's okay. Hackers don't care. It's wonderful information for them. Why? Because they have a list of email addresses that are apparently or were at some point active. They have a list of passwords that were being used or had been used in the past, and an association between the two. It's a loose association. It's not every email address using every password, but the bottom line is that that was a wonderful set of data for hackers to then be able to use to seed their hacking attempts. For any password that showed up in that breach, hackers will add it to a list of passwords that people have used, and that's what they will try for brute force attacks. They will try that password against your account, my account, everybody else's account. They'll try the next password against your account, my account, everybody else's account. And 9 times out of 10, they will find an email address and an account password for whatever service they happen to be trying to break into. And they're golden. They've got access to an account they shouldn't have. Is there anything we can do? Honestly, for that specific breach, not really, with one exception. The most important thing about every breach you hear about is that it's a reminder. It's a reminder of what's possible. It's a reminder that breaches happen. And it's a reminder that you and I are under, in a sense, constant attack from phishers, from hackers, from anything. And it could be direct attacks against you and I on our machines through our email or whatever, or it could be secondary attacks against the bank we do business with or against the online service that we use. Those services are always under attack because people want the huge database of account names and passwords. So what can we do? Well, using it as a reminder, one of the things we should do is use services like Have I Been Pwned to see if our email address is part of a breach and which breaches they are part of. Change your password if you find that you are part of a breach and you can identify what service was involved in that breach. Here's a kicker. Use pwned passwords to see if your password was involved in a breach. Now, I totally get that giving your password to a third party like pwned passwords feels icky. I get if you don't want to do that. I trust them. They're doing things right. What they do, the value that they give you, is that if you give them a password, they will tell you if that password has ever been seen in a breach. If the answer is yes, stop using that password. At whatever service you happen to be using that password, stop. Go to those services, change those passwords to be something long and strong and, most importantly, unique. Don't reuse passwords. Get and use a password manager to manage all of these long, strong, unique passwords. Again, stop using the same password on more than one site. It's one of the easiest ways that hackers make their way in. Long and strong passwords. I keep saying that. 12 characters at a minimum. I happen to use 20. Random collections of characters. Or if you like, at that 20 character and longer, use 4 or 5 different words that combine to be something useful and memorable for you. Add two-factor authentication whenever possible if it's available. Like I said, pwned passwords is a valuable service. I recommend using it, but whatever, use each breach as a reminder of the fact that breaches happen and security is ultimately your responsibility. If you have any concern about one of your passwords having been compromised, change it. There is no harm in changing it, and make sure that it's strong at the same time. For updates, for related links, for comments, and more, visit askleo.com/70298. I'm Leo Notenboom. This is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.